Sir, good afternoon. Shall we start?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
I request you to start the session.
Shall I start now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is my screen available? Can you see it?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yes.
Is visible. How many participants are there now, right now?
So currently 14 participants have joined. They are
Okay.
still joining.
Okay. Will they join in another 5 minutes or shall I start immediately?
So you can start. I have posted the message on the group.
Okay. Okay. So my first slide is on decision tree classifier in ML and applications. Is it all seen?
Not yet, sir, it is not visible.
Not visible.
Not yet, sir.
Let me check once again.
Please. So your screen is visible now. Just you will have to start presentation, I think. Just maximize the presentation, sir. I think it's okay.
This is okay. Okay.
We are able to view your screen, but not the presentation.
Now I started my presentation in the big screen. Is it seen now?
No, sir.
Is it?
Not yet, sir.
No, what you see in the screen, decision tree classifier. Is it?
No, sir.
Acha,
Actually, we
yaad
are.
kar raha
Your screen is visible, but presentation is not visible. I think you can stop presentation and again you can start presentation. Yeah.
I'm making a beginning. I don't know whether it is really working at your end.
Your screen is visible, sir, but presentation, I think it is minimized. Can you just maximize the presentation once again?
Yeah, it is maximized, sir. Please see now.
Not yet, sir.
Just
Just select the window, sir. I think instead of considering the entire screen, if you'll select the window, it will be more appropriate, I think.
I selected a window. I shared it.
No, sir. It is showing all the participants list, and your screen is being presented as you are presenting to everyone. Yes, sir. The presentation is visible now. Sir, presentation is visible. Decision tree classifier. It is visible, sir.
Is visible. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
So can I start now?
Yes, sir. Please continue.
Welcome back. So the second session today is on this decision tree classifiers. The morning session was on regression. The regression, decision tree classifier, artificial neural networks, deep learning. These are the different platforms on which the voluminous data that you derive using IoT or any other, they come to you and make you to make a good sense of that data. Since we said this in the morning, that this IoT is generating a massive voluminous data, and this is coming to you from the millions of devices. This machine learning into it for the data is using the past behavior. This also we said in the morning, and this helps predicting the future behavior and the events as far as the data trait is concerned. When I use the word trait, it is a data behavior. We have seen this in the morning that we need a training, we need testing, and we need to also go for validation of our test. In that situation, conventionally it is like this. What it says is like, if you have a data which is, let's say, 100% with you, 100% data is split among 3 different slots. One slot, let's say, is a 60% slot. This is used for training purpose. The next 20% slot is used for testing purpose. And the remaining 20% slot is used for validating the purpose. The validating the purpose indicating that testing is all done. The testing also takes into account the kind of the data which was not seen during training. However, confirming on that the testing is within the acceptable limit, you also go for a kind of a data which was not seen earlier during training or in testing, and you would like to make use of this further for testing. And in that situation, you reconfirm on your testing and then say that the reconfirmation test, which is a validation, is making you to accept either the classification, regression, or based on that, the kind of the recommendations and so on and so forth. This is what it basically takes up as far the ML machine learning part is concerned. We are now looking for the machine learning for classifying the data. Morning in the regression, we were not basically going for classifying the data. We were basically using a line to draw between all those points such that the average error between the actual point and its projection on the selected straight line is minimum. So that was our concept as far as the regression was concerned. Now, in the classification, the line being drawn is basically a threshold line. And the threshold line then says that anything below the threshold is summarizing that data belongs to one class. And anything that goes above that threshold indicate that data belongs to second class, another class. So this is where this classification is basically a discrete outcome, which is a labeled outcome that you look for. In fact, one such example that we have taken up at the end of the morning session is regarding the spam detection of the mails. In that situation, the spam detection of the mail focused on given the certain inputs, whether we would like to take up those inputs summarizing for that email to be classified as a spam or not as a spam. So the outcomes are only two to start with. So binary outcome, giving outcome in terms of S no, 1, 0, accepted, not accepted, or of one class or other class are the only thing that we take up right now for the discussion. In doing so, whereupon the classification being focused at, our purpose is to carry out the classification in such a way that this classification is not giving you a wrong result. They is saying that you know that the data belongs to a particular class, but by wrong selection of the threshold, by wrong selection of those polynomials, or whatever you say as a thresholding line, you get the one which is known is turned into unknown, or vice versa. The one which is known should come to a known only. But in this situation, there are certain typical scenarios which we are going to take up right now. And thereupon, it is likely that out of 100 known, you find that 90 known are appropriately disclosed, whereas the 10 known are not appropriately disclosed, which means that this gives you accuracy as far as those 100 data points are concerned with accuracy of 90%, because out of 100, 90 have been appropriately classified and 10 have not been. Now, can we look forward for more of learning from the data trade and the behavior indicating that the model that we want to make use of for classification has to be further tuned to such that the accuracy level, which was earlier as a 90%, is improved from 90 to higher. And for that matter, all of the today's discussion will be focused at.
Hello,
So
sir.
this is the accuracy of the classification is concerned.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Yeah, please tell me.
Sir, will you select that from current slide option, sir? Because still we are viewing the first screen, first slide of the presentation. Just if you'll select the current slide, yes, sir, it will be more appropriate.
So is it okay?
No, sir.
IoT and
You'll have to select from current slide option.
yeah, I done the same thing, sir. From current slide option only I selected, sir. So this is my current slide.
Okay,
I'm
sir.
moving
Fine.
to.
Yes, sir. No problem.
Now this is changing. Slides are changing.
Yes, sir. Now second slide is being visible.
No, wait a minute, sir. Actually, what happened? You are share the only window, first window, but you are making the slideshow. But we are not seeing the slideshow. We are seeing only PPT.
Okay, just a minute. Huh?
Just make the stop sharing and share the entire screen and make the slideshow.
Okay.
Yeah. Sir, can I suggest some steps?
What is being seen now?
Yes, sir. Your web page is seeing now. Now, yeah. Now I am seeing the PPT. Just go to the slideshow. Yes, sir. Now it is visible for the slideshow.
Second
Yeah.
slide is also seen.
Yes, sir. It is changing.
Third slide is seen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
Yes, sir. Fine, sir.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for the assistance.
It's my pleasure, sir.
Okay, so coming next to that classification, we are classifying the predicted outcome in a discrete class. When I say the discrete class, this has got the classes which are discrete, not in a continuous part. They are discrete and not a continuous. So it is either belonging to a class, a second class, third class, or other class. So that is how the classification is basically aimed at. In a regression tree, predicted outcome was likely to be more on a real. Say for example, what could be the price of a house? The price of a house is not declared as big or small. This actually indicates the price, the actual price or the predicted price. So this was what we looked up in the morning for a regression tree. In the classification, we define this in terms of a label given to the outcome of it. Is that regression could also be taken up for defining a classification? Yeah, this can be also done. So regression also carries out a task of a classification. And one such is called as a CART. This is called as a classification and regression tree. CART is one such algorithm which would have both that like a classification in a discrete and a regression in a real. So that could be considered appropriately taken up into one. We are not going to focus much on this, but we'll be focusing on a typically introductory classification tree, which is called the ID3. ID3 introductory decision tree, introductory decision tree, or it is basically scientifically called the iterative dichotomizer tree. Iterative dichotomizer tree is an acronym for this ID3. So what it says is like this. This ID3 is working both on the categorical, classified data, and it will also take into account the continuous input and output variables. Say, for example, in the morning, where we have drawn a line crossing all those points have been appropriately thought and deployed. Anything below that line was considered to be of A class. Anything above that line was considered to be of second class. So this was a simple thing. And if it is not so, then we consider anything above that line, which is indicating the positive error. Anything below the line, which is indicating the negative error, is appropriately summarized to understand to what particular actual it is the error. So this was, in that situation, real. In the categorical, we simply take up this for defining for one of the other classes. That's all. The third one is a C4.5, which is basically a modification of ID3 tree classification. We are going to take up this C4.5 algorithm in a very brief, but ID3, we are going to discuss this in much detail. And I believe that if you listen to me very carefully on designing of this ID3, the further modification like C4.5 or CART would be really very easy to you later on. So let me focus more on this ID3, introductory decision tree or the iterative dichotomizer. Let's first consider this ID3 case for a discrete outcome. In fact, in the entire discussion, I am going to take up this ID3 only for the discrete outcome. I'm not going to take up this for the regression. I'll be taking this only for defining the outcome to one of the discrete classes. Now, what it means is like this, that since we thought of creating a tree, we wanted to design the tree in its structure such that the tree is going to give me the classification for the input appropriately. When I use the word appropriately, we are looking for getting that appropriate for more for the accuracy. So we wanted to carry out all those for improving the accuracy. And for that matter, how the tree is to be constructed. A design of tree for that matter is more important. So tree generally is having one apex node, a parent node we call this as a, and this parent node spawns many child nodes. We call this to be leaf node. The leaf node at the end, when doesn't get anything for further classification or further decomposition or further fragmentation, then we call that this is the node where it is a end node of the leaf node. So we consider that leaf node to determine a certain outcome. We wanted to make use of the training into this for designing of the tree in such a way that this will use more the supervised data set. Supervised where the data is labeled. Data is labeled. We said, as I said in the earlier, that 60% of the data is used for training, 20% of this is used for testing, and remaining 20% is used for validation. So likewise, the data is all what I mean to say is classified. What is the purpose of doing this as far as the classification is concerned? Most widely, this comes for giving you the inductive inferences. The inductive inferences is the process of reaching a general conclusion from certain specific examples. Decision trees learn and they turn their learning into training further. For the sense that decision tree starts learning, it provides further training, it trains itself also from the given examples, and later on, having got appropriate learning and training, it provides prediction of those instances which were not seen earlier. This is where we have to take up a call for design of such a tree. I depict here one such tree. In fact, this particular tree is the one which is going to create a base application example for my further discussions. But let's look to this. What does it say? It says about the outlook. It says about the scene. It says about the scenario. It says about what is the environment. And in the environment, this is where the natural environment is indicating that it is either sunny, the outlook is a sunny, outlook is a overcast, overcast in the sense it is a cloudy, but not that it's too cloudy, expecting any rains, or outlook is saying that it is raining. So these are the basic three classes that we have taken up. Outlook is either towards sunny, highly sunny, overcast, more with clouds, and this is also indicating the third class that outlook is something which indicate that it is raining. What does it mean? Sunny. Sunny indicating in that situation that because the humidity component is making either humidity to go very high or humidity to go to a normal. In case of rain, we expect winds, and in that situation, wind could be high, wind could be strong, or it could be weak. Given this kind of the decomposition for the apex node starting with the outlook, then going towards humidity, then going towards the wind, and for each of these humidity and wind, we spawn additional some such children, indicating one towards going for no and one going towards yes. This is all indicating that we have constructed a tree with apex as the outlook and the outcome as no or s. What is no and s said? It says about the play of no or s. It said that if the outlook is something like that, should we play? If the output for the looking at the outlook says you that it is highly sunny, and you find that it has got very high humidity into it, possibly it will not recommend you for going in for play. So when the outlook says that it is sunny and is a normal, it says that recommendation for play is okay. Similarly, in the outlook part, when it says that it is raining, and in the raining part of it, that wind is very strong, it's raining and wind is very strong, we recommend that you need not play. You should not play. Or if you see that it's raining, mild raining, and also the wind is not that it's a strong, it's a weak one, it may recommend that you may play. So these are those decisions. Are you getting me? These are the decisions. In the past cases where sunny and rain were the two different edges from the outlook considered, a third would be overcast. As I stated, overcast is something where the scenario is such that you see clouds in the sky, but it is not expecting any rains immediately out of it. And for that matter, it may recommend that you may go for play. This is how the recommendations are appropriately worked out by selecting a tree and the decisions thereupon. Okay, so this is the basic of what I could call as creating the construction, creating the organization, and creating the decisions onto a selected tree. The basic idea for that matter in constructing the tree would be is a top-down approach. So we start with the apex node and we decompose the apex node into multiple edges. For each of the edges, we get a node. We also look for that node to see whether the node could be decomposed further. If it is so, we decompose it. If the node is not decomposable further, we consider that node as the termination and we declare that as one of the classes. What it says is like this. In the situation where we are looking for this ID3 to get implemented, it looks for a greedy search. Let me make my presentation on the greedy search as follows. The greedy search is indicating that for a given scenario, for a given contextual part of it, I would like to get a winning position immediately. I am not looking for postponing the winning. I am not looking for postponing the decision. I would like to take a decision immediately. I might change my decision later on, but let me take a decision immediately. So this is basically, it looks more for a greedy. As regards to not a greedy, it means that, oh, I'll not take an immediate decision. I'll wait for certain scenarios, and those scenarios will help me whether to go forward or to wait further. That will be all defined at that moment. So in a greedy part, I would take immediate, or if it is not a greedy, I'll wait. I'll take a very patient look at the scenario and will defer taking a decision. Of course, I'll take a decision, but not that I'll take an immediate decision. And in that situation, the ID3 focuses more on this greedy search. It is a top-down approach, as I stated earlier, but I also look for a greedy search. And in this greedy search, the problem then comes that immediately at a particular node, if I am looking forward for getting a solution, I might make a biggest mistake into it, which I cannot recover. And if the mistake is not recoverable, possibly the entire situation of making a recommendations with the constructed tree will go in vain. So we need to take a call that instead of having this tree constructed in a top-down and a greedy search, can we make use of some scientific way of creating or the constructing the tree? And this is how we are going to focus more in the part of this ID3. Second part into it would be like this, that the tree being given, the tree can expand more deep, or tree can expand more on its breadth. So breadth-wise, the tree can be expanded, which I say is a horizontal expansion of the tree, or tree can expand more into the deeper part of one of the branches, which I say is a basically going depth in a particular branch of the tree. And likewise, the tree gets appropriately constructed. However, as I stated earlier, tree must find a node for its further decomposition. If tree doesn't find a node for decomposition, the tree growing stops. That's so simple. Well, doing so, more the tree of the depth, it will call for more of the searching operation. If the tree depth is not so big, not so deep, possibly the searching would be easy. If the tree is deep, searching is taking more of a computation. This is one part. And second part, as I stated, is that having taken up appropriate tree, the meaning of that appropriate tree is that whether this classifies, whether this gives me the outcome which is well accepted, maybe out of 100, 4 or 5 may go in wrong. But it should not happen that out of 100, only 4 or 5 are acceptable and 96 to 95 are not acceptable. This should not be the situation. And for that matter, the tree construction, tree decomposition is very important. And that's the reason that we need to take appropriate decision at this end. This is a machine learning. I meant to say that you know as a human intelligence on how to do it. Of course, for human being also to do it, sometimes it becomes a critical way, but we'll assume that human being understand it, and the way the human being understand the process of decomposition and taking the decision for declaring the outcome could be appropriately embedded into the machine. So with this as a preamble, I'll continue. What way the apex node, what way the parent node be selected? So that's more important. If you make a wrong decision of who could be considered a parent, the entire tree might go in a wrong way of its further decomposition, and the results might not be acceptable. So we look forward for a typical concept called the entropy. So I'm making some scientific base of making selection of the parent node, and for that matter, I selected entropy. What is the entropy? Entropy is the measure of information content. When I say it's the measure of information content, more the information, more is the entropy. Less is the information, less is the entropy. It's a simple meaning out of it. But what is the information? Is the information the data? No, information is not a data. Data needs to be appropriately processed for a given context, and processed data for a given context become the information. But when do we consider the information is more and when do we consider the information is less? Information needs to be measured. And for that matter, this is the equation. The information content is given by a parameter called entropy, and this is a probabilistic a probabilistic measure worked out for that. This says it like this, that this is a P plus log P plus minus P minus log P minus. What it means is like this. The P plus and P minus are the probabilities of positive and negative examples. So P positive belongs to one class, P negative belongs to second class. Let's apply it for a real life example. I am saying that P plus is something which is, for a coin tossing example, is representing head. P minus is the second outcome. For a coin tossing example, is representing this as the tail. So we have head and the tail are the two outcomes for the coin tossing. And we know that when the coin tossing is taken up, the coin outcome could either go for head or it could go for a tail. Assuming, assuming once, let's say that the outcome is always towards tail. I want to say P minus corresponds to tail and is equal to 1. So if coin tossing is carried out for multiple such experiments, and each of the experiments says that outcome is always tail, it means that the probability for the outcome for the head is 0. It also means that the probability for the outcome of a tail is 1. So in this situation, if you carry out multiple experiments and each of the experiment gives you the outcome is only tail, you might not be interested carrying out taking up one more experiment, because you get sure that next experiment will also turn into outcome as a tail, which indicate that you will not gain any information for going forward for any new experiment. Similarly, the case when I say that if you go for a coin tossing and outcome is believed to be only head. If you go for second experiment, again the outcome is head. If you go for a third, outcome is head. If you go for 100 such experiment and you find that for each of the time that outcome is only head, you might not be interested to take n plus 1 experiment to know what outcome would be, because you find that it is sure that next outcome would also be what you have seen in the previous, which means that there is no information, there is no excitement, there is no interest to go forward for making any further move for getting any outcome, which clearly indicate that if the outcomes are well anticipated and is coming like that, there is no information. I repeat, if the outcome is all well anticipated and is coming like that, there is no information. In the rainy season, if one said that, oh, there will be heavy rains further, there is no information as such, there is no interest into as such. But if there is a heavy sunshine and someone said that, oh, now you are experiencing sunshine, but next moment you are going to get a heavy rains, oh, that's information to you. That's great interest to you. Are you with me? Something which is not expected and is likely to come is informative to you. And something which is expected is going to come to you is not informative. That is the simple meaning of it. And similarly, I take up the third part. Third part says that the probability of occurrence for the head and the probability of occurrence for the tail is equiprobable, in the sense that two of them, they are half. So probability of head is half, probability of tail is also half. In that situation, I'll be more interested to understand what the next outcome could be. I'll be more interested in what the next outcome could be, because whatever I seen, they were not favoring one of the outcomes, they are favoring two of the outcomes equally. So I'll be more interested. And this is the particular reason you must be knowing that even for making any kind of tossing, in a coin tossing, we consider a coin which is not biased to one of them. So unbiased coin is taken up for tossing, and that gives you the outcome which is not ever expected. And whatever comes, then you take up this as the kind of the fate and you go forward accordingly. Okay, so in that situation, if this is the particular scenario of defining the information content, the equation of entropy equal to P positive log P positive minus P negative log P negative is very appropriate. Let's apply it so that you will understand what is that I said earlier would be appropriately well understood further. So when I see that P positive, let's say P positive is 0, naturally when P positive is 0, P negative is 1. So if all the outcomes are towards the tail, I find the probability of tail is 1, which means that the probability of head is 0. Similarly, probability of head is found to be always 1. It means that the probability of tail is always 0. So in two of the situation, as I stated, there is no excitement, there is no information. And please see, if I take up these values to be put into the equation, P positive log 2 to P positive. So when P positive is, let's say, 1, when I say this is the situation that is always going toward the head, so this is 1 log 1, 1 log 1 minus, so this is 1 log 1 minus this P negative 0. So this is 0. So 1 log 1 to the base 2. So log 1 to the base 2 is, what is this there? Tell me, what is this? This is 0. This is 0. So when I look for this log, so this is basically, I am carrying out this P positive, which is having 0 probability. Okay, or this is where I'm looking for this as the highest probability, 1 probability. In two of the situation, I get that this entropy is equal to 0. Entropy is 0. So for this situation, 1 and 2, entropy becomes 0. But when I get probability of plus and a probability of minus as half and half, then if I look for this half log half minus half log half, so log half is basically log half. You must be knowing that this is basically 2 log 1. Log 1 by 2 is basically 2 log 1. And that situation, half log 2 log 1, if I take into account half log half into 2 is basically 1, and log 1 is 1. So I get this value. What is this value then? Let's say this is value. So if I look for this P positive log 2 P positive, if I look for this P negative log 2 P negative, I get this value in that situation as entropy equal to 1. So this gives me a value of half. This gives me a value of half. So negative half minus negative half is negative 1. Am I correct? So basically, when I call this negative, actually you must be knowing that 1 log of 1 by 2. Log of 1 by 2 is basically log of 1 by 2 is basically minus 2 log 1. And because of this minus sign and this minus sign becomes plus. So I get this to be a plus, and this also becomes then plus. Am I correct? So this becomes plus half, this becomes plus half. So that plus half is equal to 1. In that situation, in this third situation, I get entropy is equal to 1. This is very important for the simple reason that this has given me how to measure the information. Otherwise, the information content could have been considered only subjective. We want to give some objectivity measure for this. Entropy defined with this particular equation is an objective measure. Let's plot the outcome of this with reference to coin tossing. So if I look for a coin tossing, which is indicating that the P head is 0, naturally P tail would be 1. P head 0, P tail 1. This doesn't give me any information because we indicated all the time the outcome is going to favor only 1. So there is no interest. Where is the more interest? As I stated, the interest is more when two of them they are equally likely. As I stated in the previous, that when two of them they are equally likely, entropy is equal to 1. When one of them is more likely, second is not at all likely, the entropy is 0. So in that situation, this starts with a 0. It goes to the maximum when two of them they are equally likely. And this will come down once again to 0 when second one is prominent, and I feel that the coin tossing is only giving me one of the second outcome. The first outcome there is 0. In that situation, there is nothing like the information into it. This is a simple plot of the entropy curve for a binary sample model. Okay, we want to make use of this for decomposing and selecting the nodes in the tree. Okay, taking a thread of this entropy, I'll make use of one more parameter, and that is called information gain. Entropy is basically information. But now I'm looking not only for the information, I'm now looking for the information gain. And that information gain, then it says it like this, that we work out the entropy, and from the entropy, if at all the further decomposition is carried out, we look for what is the relative entropy with respect to this entropy. Okay, and in this situation, I look forward for given a entropy at the beginning, if that gets decomposed into further, what is the gain of selecting the first for defining its entropy and the remaining gain because of taking up the decomposition of it. So this says it like this: gain of S comma A is S is each value V of all possible values of attribute A, whereas SV is a subset of S for which attribute A has a value only equal to V. So SV is the number of elements in a small set, which is a decomposed set SV, and S is the number of elements in the S. So S is the one which is in the parent node, whereas SV is the one which is in the child node. Okay, a parent might have multiple child nodes. Okay, under that situation, the entropy of the parent node and the entropy of the child node, if selected appropriately, I work out the gain. Am I clear? So we look for computing the entropy of the parent node, from which we deduct the entropy of the child node, and we work out this gain. Wherever I find that this gain, wherever the gain is more, in the sense that wherever I find that because of this subtraction, if this amount goes high, that becomes a node to be considered first for decomposition. This is the one which is to be considered for decomposition. So again, take up the earlier example of coin tossing. What is that I said in the coin tossing? I know that if the coin tossing is equally likely for the occurrence of head and tail, I'll have more interest. If I find that the coin tossing is more towards one of the outcomes, I'll not be interested. That is what I said, which means that I look forward only when there is a more of an entropy. Am I correct? So I am looking for more of an entropy. If there is no entropy, oh, further exploration is totally stopped. So that is what I stated earlier. But in creating the decomposition of the tree, we are not only going by the entropy, we are going by the, the child nodes of the parent node. So if the parent node has a certain entropy, to that if a child node takes up the entropy of its for its deduction, I get a gain of the parent node. So I'm looking for the gain of the parent node. So if the gain of the parent node as far the inference is concerned is more, such a parent is appropriate to be selected to start with. This is what it says. So the entire theory, as I stated so far, is only for selecting a node as a parent node. Okay. Let's apply to a typical real life example. The example here is that we would like to play a baseball. Playing baseball will need the atmosphere, the environment, which is conducive for its playing. And let's look for a certain typical the environmental features. We have gathered data, and appropriately we have also taken up certain decisions based on that. So 14 days data have been collected. So this is towards what is the outlook of the scene. This then says what is the temperature in the scene, what is the humidity, what is the wind. So these are all taken up appropriately. So outlook, temperature, humidity, and the wind are those which are defining or are controlling whether we play in this environment or not. Saying first that if the outlook is sunny, very sunny, temperature is very hot, humidity is also very high, wind might not be, but wind is weak, let's say, under that situation, the recommendation that we should not play. Let's look at this example, D3. The outlook is overcast. Overcast indicating that it's a cloudy, but not that it is raining. Temperature is hot. Humidity is also hot, high. Wind is weak. You may recommend one to go for playing. Likewise, these are those which are believed to be the classified data. So whether to go for play or not, this is already defined. What is defined here? This is based on the experiences in the past. So we consider this as the data for training. We consider this as a data for constructing the tree of it. So let's say there are 14 such different rows. And for each of these, we get outlook, temperature, humidity, and wind as the different parameters. Then whether we should consider outlook as the node at the parent, whether we should consider temperature as the node at the parent, or humidity or wind is not known to us. Okay, if we go with temperature, my tree gets constructed, but will it be optimal? We do not know. If I consider wind, will it be optimal? We do not know. Of course, we can take up this as an experiment. Okay, but the way I said for constructing the tree in a scientific way, if at all thought appropriate in that way, it would be going forward for first computing the entropy. Entropy of what? Entropy of all those, let's say outlook, temperature, humidity, wind, and so forth. So, okay, the one who gives me higher entropy is the first candidate, and then I look for if it gets decomposed into further node, what is the gain that I get because of the decomposition. If the gain because of decomposition is higher, the one which I selected as the parent node is confirmed as a parent node. Oh, that's a simple strategy. That's a simple scientific base for selecting a node as a parent node. Am I clear? Am I clear? So I say it like this in a simple part that wherever there is a more of the information content, we must select it. Wherever there's a more of a information gain, after decomposing it, we must select it. So a selection starts with information gain. Selection starts with computing entropy for that appropriately. Okay, so this being considered as one typical example. This is very classic example. Whenever you open up any of the document related to ID3, you find that this example invariably it comes up, and you find that most of the discussion go with this kind of the entries into it. Okay, so let's take up that as a classic sample example and look for these 14 entries. Look for these 1, 2, 3, 4 different columns, and based on this, we work out the outcome. So this is my classification. This is my outcome of a classification. So this is binary in nature. It is either yes or no. It is either yes or no. So it recommends whether one should go for playing or one should not. Okay, so this is where I'm making use of ID3 for classification. Okay, so please remember this part. I may come back to this slide once again to refresh your memory later on. So data attributes in the example. If I look for the weather attributes, in the weather attributes, I said earlier, this is outlook, temperature, humidity, and the wind. If I look for the outlook, if I look for the only outlook column, in the outlook column, if I go to the previous slide, in the outlook column, what I get it will be either sunny, it is a overcast, or it is a rain. Am I correct? These are the only three things that I could see invariably here. So as far as the outlook is concerned, I get sunny, overcast, and the rain as the three different features of it. If I look for a temperature, in a temperature I get it hot, mild, or cool. So these are the three in temperature. If I look for a humidity, in a humidity I get high, normal, that's all. So I get under humidity only two, high and normal. If I look for a wind, I get weak, strong, that's all. So under wind also I get only two. So for wind I get two, for humidity I get two, for temperature I get three, and for outlook I get three. Am I correct? So this is what it is written up in their set. So outlook is a set of three: sunny, overcast, and the rain. Temperature is a set of three: hot, mild, and cool. Whereas humidity is a set of only two: high and normal. Wind is a set of only two, which is weak and strong. Okay, so we created sets. Let's look at what happens with this. As stated earlier, we wanted to compute the entropy, and the formula for the entropy was given. What are the formula for entropy? Is a P log P. So if there are two events, I take up this is a minus P1 log P1 minus P2 log P2. So this is the equation for the entropy. So if I look for the entropy of S, I know that there are totally 14 such events. Correct? No, there are 14 entries. So I'll go back and I'll indicate to you. I noted here 9, and this is a 9, and this is a 5 as a typical outcome out of 14. So what they say? So they say about the decisions. What are the decision here? So please look at this part. So if I look for the decision, out of 14 different such experiments, out of different 14 experiments, I find that no comes up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Am I correct? How many times it comes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many times S comes? Naturally, 14 minus 5. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So 9 plus 5 is 14. Am I correct? So S comes for 9 times. No comes for 5 times. Okay. So with this, we can work out for these two outcome, what is its entropy. So let's look at the entropy. So 9 by 14 log 9 by 14 minus 5 by 14 by 5 by 14. Am I correct? So 9 by 14 is the probability as per the S is concerned. 5 by 14 is the probability as far as the no is concerned. So this gives me entropy of 0.94. Am I clear? I think I'm making a very simple beginning. I'm not incorporating any mathematical or a complicated part of the mathematics into it. It's a simple one here, I believe, and you understand it. Okay. So if I get this value of entropy, I make use of a further decomposition of this. Let's say by making use of either a wind. If I look for a wind, I may select any one of these. I'm selecting wind right now, but I may select outlook, I may select temperature, I may select humidity. So if I select wind first, then as I stated earlier, the entropy of the one which I have computed minus the entropy because of this wind selected as a group for further decomposition, what I get. So under the wind, I get wind has got two different parameters. Either wind is a weak or it's a strong. So weak part into it is how much, strong part into it is how much. So I compute that part. If I look for this, I get that the value comes up as 0.940 for the entropy. Then I get 8 by 14, 8 by 14, which favors more for the weak. Strong favors for 6. You may verify it. I think for brevity, I'll bring it back to the earlier slide. So weak is for 8 out of 14. Let's see whether I get weak 8 out of 14. So I get these are the 14. So out of this weak here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I correct? So 8 out of 14. So remaining 6 will be for a strong. So I now work out entropy for this. Entropy for this has been already computed minus entropy for this. So if I compute this, this becomes the gain. Okay. So let's look at this. So what I get here? So with this computation, I got the gain as 0.048. Oh, this is my first iteration in which I have computed a gain in which the apex is for the total entropy of 0.940, and we consider the next decomposition with respect to wind. I get a gain of 0.048. In place of that, if I look for gain S and the outlook, am I correct? So if I look for a gain S and the outlook, I get this value of 0.246. If I take another iteration and work out what is this gain S with temperature, I get 0.029. These are the calculations. These are the only calculations that we need to repeat for each of these. So if I look for the gain S and the humidity, I get this 0.151. Okay, so I got a data. Let's summarize it. So in the next slide, when I summarize it, I get it like this. So gain outlook 0.246, gain temperature 0.029, gain humidity 1.51, gain wind 0.048. As already we stated that wherever I find that a gain is maximum, this should be selected first. This should be selected first as a parent node. So outlook out of all those things use as a decision for the simple reason that this is maximum among the 4. So gain outlook is 0.246, whereas all remaining 3 are less than 0.246. That's why outlook is considered as the parent node. Am I clear? So with this as a scientific background for selecting the parent node, I got that outlook should be selected as the parent node. Okay, then what we do? If outlook is selected, we have to look forward. What could be the next? What attribute should be tested at sunny? If I select a sunny, because I get a sunny, overcast, and a rainy as the 3 different branches. Okay, so I select the sunny first, and in that situation, if I select sunny for decomposition, what would be the result of it? So this will be shown further. The process, whatever I indicated of computing the gain at each of the node continues. So whatever I discussed so far for selecting the outlook as the parent node continues for selecting yet another node as a parent node at the second level. Am I correct? At the second level, we look for which could be considered as the next parent. So the process continues. And with this, I get it like this, that outlook being then considered as a root with 3 attributes as humidity, temperature, and the wind. I take up each one of this. Okay, and I work out the gain. So there are typically in the situation for a sunny, I get 5 examples, and I work out gain with sunny humidity 0.97, sunny temperature, this thing. So if I compute all those things, the one which is the biggest into it would be selected further. So this continues. This is all. So humidity has the highest gain. That's why this is further selected for decomposition. Am I clear? So this is simple. Which one to be selected as a parent node is to be determined in such a way that this will ultimately bring me to get more of a gain of decomposition. If there is no gain of decomposition, such a node should not be selected as a parent node. That is a simple idea. Okay, that is a simple idea. Okay, so we got the idea of how to select a parent node. With this, I construct the tree, and the tree in that situation is as follows. So when I started with selecting outlook as a parent node, I get the next node as a humidity. I get next as the overcast. I meant to say that I get this as S for the outcome of it, because there is nothing like I get decomposite further. And outlook, if I go toward the rain, I get wind at the next node. So I get next node as the humidity and the wind. Am I correct? This is not at all node. This is basically a leaf node at termination. And what a termination is? A termination is my decision. Decision either yes or no. Okay. So in that situation, if I look for this humidity for further decomposition with high and normal as the 2 attributes, I get it like this. So the entire tree is constructed, and the tree then says it like this, that with this as the apex node, with this as the in-between node, this become the leaf node, or this become my decision nodes at the end of it. This is the construction of it. What is the purpose of selecting entropy? What is the purpose of selecting the gain into it? This will minimize the depth of the tree. Please understand, this will minimize the depth of the tree. If a selected node is not having enough of further decomposition, like what I said over here, this will be terminated immediately. Okay. On the contrary, if you select a particular node so that this is further decompose, which means that the further decomposition will add to the depth of the tree. In that situation, more the depth of the tree, more are the computation. Less is the depth of the tree, less are the computations. So this is simple meaning of it. So we wanted to save on the computation, for which depth of the tree should be as minimum as possible. Okay, so this is the final tree that we have worked out for the given data. Next, if such a tree is worked out, what it comes as far as the machine learning is concerned, because the machine learning will need certain rule to work out. So this will take up now a logical rule. Let's say what that rule would be now. If outlook is sunny and humidity is equal to high, then play baseball? No. Okay, it means it like this. If outlook is humidity if outlook is humidity, and in the sense, oh, if outlook is sunny, I beg pardon. So if outlook is sunny and the humidity is very high, I should not play. So if and if, then this is the only logical expression that work out by looking at this layout. Am I correct? And this then becomes the what I say intelligence embedded into the machine. This is the intelligence rule. If outlook is sunny and humidity is high, then play baseball? No. Let's look at this. If outlook is rain and wind is strong, then play baseball? Yes. Is it? Let's look at this. If I make a mistake, if outlook is rain, if outlook is rain and wind is strong, this should be no. So please correct it. This is no. Okay, purposefully when this is done, so you understand that not that you accept anything so blindly, there has to be a validation, revalidation at your end also. So this is wrong, correct it. Okay, so if outlook is rain and wind is strong, then play baseball? No. Am I correct, sir? Are you all getting me? Is the explanation very crisp? Do you find that you need any further explanation here? Please respond to me so that I can take
Got
up
it,
my
sir. Got it,
discussion.
sir.
Got it now? Very good. Okay. So this is a particular decision rule which goes as the rule for embedding intelligence into the machine. Okay. So this is the intelligence part which is embedded into the machine. This is where if the results appropriately worked out like this are acceptable, it means that the machine has learned. Machine learning is successful, is the meaning out of it. Okay. Going forward. So what is that we have done here? Is a basically a summary of the decision tree, whereupon we inducted something, as we stated in the morning. If A then B, if B then C, summarizes to if A then C. So this is where we have deduced something. We had deduced something. Now we come across some such situations. Let's say that whatever was taken up appropriately for designing the tree is okay. Now one of the situations in the given data set said that it was not considered while the tree is constructed. This is also valid, but this was not taken up for constructing the tree. If you take up that which was not seen in constructing it, it becomes a test data. And look whether the test data also gives me a correct result. If it is so, it means that the training is appropriate. This really means that the training is appropriate. And this guarantees that whatever efforts you have taken up for constructing the tree is okay, and you should go forward for making use of this for further recommendation, estimations, and so on so appropriately. One part is to be noticed. If we look for the tree which I have shown to you, this tree was balanced. As far as the nodes on the right side, the nodes on the left side of the apex are concerned, these are more or less same. So such a tree is a balanced tree. And in that situation, we also noted that the tree has got a least possible the depth, because this is all called for one reason, that the smaller the depth of the tree traversing is a faster. And this is what we need to really focus at. Okay. Given this thing, can we prune the tree? It means that some of the elements selected during training happen to have some redundancy into it, which means that they get repeated, or they are so related that they are closely, tightly coupled to each one of them. Under this situation, such a sample need not be considered for training, because in that situation, more of a training will also take up more of a training time. So can we reduce on those samples which are redundant? Oh, that is more important. At the same time, we say that, are we there to select each and every data in the input as a training data? Is likely that data that you might have selected is out of scope, is going, which is called as an outlier, or is considered to be a kind of a noise. We do not understand which one is a noise and which is not a noise. If you look for a component which is information never comes to you with no noise. Information always comes to you with a noise. It is said that data and the information is corrupted in noise. So when you are looking for the data, it is likely that some of the data points into it are noise. What is the noise component? data is also a something which is looking forward for its existence into that component, but is unwanted. So noise is something which is also a signal, but is an unwanted signal. Noise is also data, but is an unwanted data. So we differentiate unwanted and data. So wanted data is the one on which we build our tree. Unwanted data is something which we then call as a noise. So we need to really focus on that the unwanted data is to be minimized. If it is not minimized, as we stated in the morning, we come across what is called the overfitting problem. The overfitting problem comes only because of a huge data in which more of that huge part is concerning on the noise part of it. And since you are not processed the data, you are also accepted noise as a data point, you come across overfitting of the problem. Okay, so you have to take appropriate call and prune it. This is called the pre-processing on the data. This improves the accuracy and the speed of classification. Extension of decision trees. So what I described right now is a very simple, very effective, and for that matter, it is a very popular in decision making as far as the decision tree algorithms are concerned. Any of the decision tree algorithms topics, if you search for, the first and the foremost into it that you come across will be ID3. So this is very popular in that situation. Okay, these algorithms were upon the extension of the ID3s thought appropriately. This will be more on splitting, or this is more on decomposing the chosen node. A chosen node, if it is believed to be appropriate parent node, you must get a result which is acceptable. But if it is not turning into the acceptable result, it means that you must have made some mistake in selecting the node as a parent node, which means that in whole of the journey for designing or redefining the structure of the decision tree, it all revolves all around how do we split, how do we decompose the tree, which means that how do we select the nodes into it. It means that how do we select the parent node to start into it. So selection of the parent, selection of the node appropriately into entire tree matters a lot. So decision tree can be induced with minimum time complexity provided the depth of the tree is made minimum. Okay, so these are the different variations with which you can make certain getting the credit for your research. So I'm going to give you a summary of these three different algorithms, namely ID3, CART, and C4.5. Please keep in mind that the criteria for selecting the different algorithms for the decision tree is based on the splitting of the selected node. Okay, so this being the only criteria, there are many algorithms available in the decision tree algorithm which are believed to be extension of ID3. One of them, as I stated, is a CART, and another one would be C4.5. Of course, if you look for the recent development into it, C5.5 is also available. There are many other algorithms available, but they basically stem out from this ID3. Let's look at a small summary of these algorithms. So if I look for the ID3 splitting criteria, as we demonstrated in our presentation, is the information gain. We computed this information gain, and this information gain is basically indicating the gain is basically indicating the entropy of the parent node minus the entropy of the child node. In this, whoever gives me more of the information gain is selected then as the parent node. This is selected as the parent node, and this continues. This all continues. So this continues till we find that the decomposed tree has got only one leaf, which I say is a termination. Okay, so this is how the tree is constructed as far as the ID3 is concerned. What are the remarks for this ID3? The algorithm calculates for all such A, I, and D, the D being the one which I am going to select as the node for decomposition further. So this gives me all different attributes. We select among these attributes which is maximum as far as the gain is concerned. So this gain, which is so maximum, is selected first. This algorithm can handle both categorical as well as the numerical attributes. Right now, we have seen only the categorical attributes as per the real and the countries one are concerned, this goes more on the regression. The regression part we have seen in the morning. Right now we are focusing only on the categorical part. Categorical part is a discrete. Categorical part of binary could be a part into the discrete. Okay, it favors splitting those attributes which has a large number of distinct values. So that's more important. It favors splitting those attributes which has a large number of distinct values. So if it has got a less number of distinct values, such a node is of not great interest. Okay, so this is as far as the ID3 is concerned. Going forward, if I look for a CART, which I say it's a combined, which is basically regression as well as the classification. In that situation, they make use of another index for splitting, and that is called the Gini index. What that Gini index is indicating that you look for a typical node to be taken up for decomposition so that we compute GD minus G of D. What is this? It says the Gini index as 1 minus the probability of the next node getting split into more number of nodes. We wanted more number of nodes to come forward, no? Because if there are not more number of nodes, the tree gets terminated and you get only one outcome, which is believed to be a termination or a leaf node. Okay, so we take up this Gini index. This Gini index is the one which will then decide not the gain. Gain was used earlier for the ID3, but this Gini index is used for CART. So this CART makes use of the Gini index for selecting the parent node and for the decomposition of it. What is that it says? It has the algorithm that calculates a binary partitions for all possible values with the attributes of A and choose the one which has got a maximum value of this Gini index. This algorithm is computationally very expensive in the sense that this computes this kind of those computations which are comparatively more computationally expensive. And when the attribute A has a large number of values, this is much more computationally expensive. So this is indicating some of the features of the Gini index. Another one is a C4.5. A C4.5 immediately stems out from ID3. So this then said that we have computed already this value, which I say is a comma D. This already we have computed. But this is to be rated, this is to be weighted, this is to be normalized. So if I look for the normalized AD value, which is this AD value, if I work out this normalization with respect to this EAD, that is splitting information, then this normalization will help me to compute this, which is basically a ratio of this thing. And wherever I find that this ratio is maximum, I select this for decomposition. This is the simple meaning of it. So this is what already we have computed. This value EA of D is the splitting information, which indicate that if I select that particular D node for splitting, what is that I'm going to get as a further information, as splitting information. So if I take up this for normalizing the first, that ratio, which is a normalized ratio, if going high is thought appropriate, then this is selected as the node for decomposition. So here it is stated like this, that attribute A with maximum value of A comma D is selected for splitting. Splitting information is a kind of normalization so that it can check the biasness of information gained towards the closing attributes with a large number of distinct values. As I stated earlier, we wanted to look for a tree which is a balanced tree. So it starts from the apex node, but whenever the apex node is decomposed, the decomposed node should also be balanced. So we look for that balancing. If it is not balanced, it means that the tree favors only one of the outcomes more and one of them is trimmed to a leaf node straight away. Okay, so this is where this is more appropriate. So C4.5 is a very immediate extension of ID3 in which ID3 gave me a gain. If the gain is normalized, it becomes C4.5. So ID3 is only information gain. When the gain is normalized, it becomes C4.5. So these are some of the variations into it. Those who are carrying out some work into machine learning using this classification trees, I think these nodes would be of great help to them. And let me hurriedly go through this. The nodes indicate that we have to have optimal decision tree. What is the meaning of this? Finding an optimal decision tree as an NP complete problem. NP is a non-deterministic polynomial problem. When I look for this non-deterministic polynomial problem, I do not get any mathematical relationship, a mathematical component, which is a polynomial, maybe a complex polynomial also. But since I'm not getting it like this, I make some judgment. And if I believe that a judgment at one end is also applicable for another end, I call this to be NP-complete problem. So this then becomes the NP-complete problem. And decision tree induction algorithms employ a heuristic-based approach. Heuristic in which more of the experiences in the past and the inferences based on that are taken up, and we make judgment based on those are taken up appropriately in deciding the composition or the decomposition of the tree. Okay, this is majority of this algorithm is following the greedy top-down recursive approach. We wanted to see that this greedy approach is not so greedy, which gives me wrong result. So we take up a decision of splitting the node in such a way that I take that decision in such a way that next to next I get a kind of an outcome which is acceptable to me. In a greedy part of it, with a kind of a greediness, I'm going to get an outcome which will not be optimal. Okay, so we take up the problem of dividing this into many sub-problems. It's called the divide and conquer strategy, and we build a tree appropriately. As stated earlier, a missing data or the noise data, they matter a lot. Noise needs to be appropriately removed. At the same time, the missing data, if it is found that such a data has to be there but is not found there, we take a mean of nearest to, and we take the mean of the nearest to either missing data. So this is the one which is taken up. Redundant attributes are those which indicate that if the data is highly related or it is getting copied as it is, I think such a thing should be removed. This should be concise. So this indicate that these are the ways by which you can refine, selecting, or processing of the data. If all this is coming up for improving on the computational complexity. So if I have a decision tree with a depth of D, a worst case time complexity of such one is O of D. It's called the big O of D. So big O of D is the complexity. So big O of D goes up with more of a D. So if the depth is more, complexity is more. Okay, this is one important part. If the data fragmentation problem, whereupon a selected node is getting decomposed further, but it has a problem. The problem is like that: the one which we are decomposed and which forms as a sub tree of the main tree is finding its replication at another. So this is a replication at another. So whatever I have worked out at this end is also available to me in the another, but in the different branch of the tree. I think such a thing, which is the replication, should be avoided. And this indicates that such a fragmentation of a tree is not advisable because this wastes the computation. So we need here a tree pruning appropriately. This comes up maybe because of wrong selection of those nodes or wrong selection of the decisions. So these are those research areas which would help you to take up this activity of researching, take up this activity of developing it further so that you improve on the accuracy of it and think of getting a good credit for it. I had taken up the references for making my judgment, making my presentation, and some of the samples from this. Tom and Mitchell, this book on a machine learning is a very standard book, usually considered the Bible in the machine learning. And I recommend many of you who would like to take up some research or extension of what I said so far to please make their further references on this book. You can also take up this as one typical, what I could say, a reference paper. This paper is one which gives you the comparative study of decision tree algorithm, basically ID3 and C4.5. More or less, I'm more fond of going for searching on this Jason's his website, and the kind of the document that he provides on that is so interesting. I recommend you please join his group. Machine Learning Mastery is his web source. Jason Brownlee, Machine Learning Mastery. And he gives everything in a very lucid manner. I like his presentation. I like the way he selects the real life problem for illustration. and he also makes some comments. He also gives you some insights into the kind of those developments which you can take up easily further, of course with the interest of your own to be kept in mind, so that for the interest you would like to improve on the result. And this is all possible, for which he gives a very good guideline. I am a very fond of Jason Brownlee for his website and the kind of the material that he produces onto it. Every week, maybe possibly for every day, he is launching some new material into it, which comes up as a material out of some real life examples. And all these real life examples are so fascinating that for many of the problems lingering in your mind, he might provide to you a good solution. And if not a good solution, you can make it a good solution. He might provide to you some basic level solution which you can improve upon. As I stated, the way to improve upon is to improve on the accuracy of classification, and is to improve on the classification rate, is to improve upon the timing of classification. These are those different avenues which will help you to take up all the discussion further and see that you get also a good credit of having developed something into this decision algorithms. I look forward for your suggestions. I look forward for your questions, and I'd be glad to answer few of them with the kind of the capacity and the kind of the ability available at my end. So please provide to me few of your questions or the suggestions.
Thank you, sir. Now participants can ask the questions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please.
So
Please tell me.
can you give some examples of machine learning and IoT together, please?
Machine learning and IoT.
Together.
Correct? Yeah. Sir, if you look for my presentation in the morning, I said that crop yield will be maximum if you have appropriate seed, if you have appropriate fertilizer, if you have appropriate water plantation, and so on and so forth. So these are the different avenues. You must be knowing at most of the time at the farm level, at the floor level, a farmer is a good judge of predicting some of those things which other might not be knowing it so well. Farmer looks at the scenario, farmer looks at the outlook, farmer looks at the sky, farmer looks at the what and say the windiness or the humidity, and he determines what is most likely to happen for this season, and he makes a good decision also. Now in that way, uh, whereupon the farmer or someone is available on the farm, on the floor, and is collecting the data. And it's not that he is collecting the data only for a small portion, he might be collecting data for a larger portion, and he's not the only one. It's all geographically distributed, and for all that such distributed and different regions, we would like to select the seed inputs. What are the seed inputs? I just said it. What could be the planting program there? What could be a fertilizer? What is the quality of the soil? What is the kind of the seed that they usually take up there? And with all those things being given to you and the seasonal variations being known to you, you can predict. You can then predict that what should be the crop one should take up this season, so that the yield for that crop would be more. Am I correct now? So this is a very simple thing that IoT will make you to collect the data. So IoT in that situation at different places are embodying the different sensors. The sensors are, they are taking up the humidity, temperature. They might be taking up some additional parameters, and they are not only for one of the regions. They might come to you from many regions, and become difficult for you to go and grab it. It become difficult for you to go and collect the data also. So for collection of the data, you employ those devices. You take up all those things, and these are the things which are basically sensors. These sensors are not that they are working in isolation. All these sensors are working in association. It's a tight association, and for that you need an internet, for which you need the interconnection. So all the sensors which are well interconnected, they pass on the data from one, and they take up this to the second. From that, they ultimately come to a server, to a common point of it. A huge data gets collected in that situation. But getting only a data is not important. No? How do you mean out of the data? How you really interpret on the data? How you work out the hidden patterns in the data is more important. And what for you know want to know this? You want to know this on the hidden pattern. You want to know about the data trait. All those is only for the reason that if the trait continues, something which you have not seen could well be predicted. So for that matter, data collection would come to you from IoT. As I stated that IoT will bring to you at a common place a huge data, is a voluminous data, and the data is also changing, dynamically changing the data. The voluminous data, a variety of the data is also varying, is a changing data, variety, and its variability is also more, velocity is also more. So if I look for such a data coming to you through those IoT devices, how do we process on such a data? For the processing of the data, you need to have certain strategy, certain decision making on the data to understand what are the hidden signatures of the data, what are the hidden traits of the data into it, so that it makes you to make a recommendation of the variation of the data in future. We are looking more for the futuristic development, and for that matter, past developments are more important. Past developments are gathered through IoT, and for making futuristic recommendation, we make use of machine learning. Am I clear, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So another thing is that whatever sensors we are using in IoT, like I'm taking towards the edge of an IoT, power at edge of an IoT, that can be reduced by machine learning. How is it possible, sir?
Sir, please repeat what you said about the age.
So, edge of power at edge of one IoT.
Uh,
Edge of an IoT, power at edge of an IoT that can be reduced using machine learning. Is it possible?
okay. Yeah, yes. See, what is that? It says
How?
it like this, that if I'm looking for a particular device in between of that Internet of Things, and which is more sensitive on the power backup for that particular device, I'm looking for that. Let's say the energy available at that particular device is to be optimally utilized. If the device is making use of some kind of receiving the data and sending of it, for sending and receiving only, it will get exhausted with the available energy. And for that matter, we also understand while collecting the data from some of the nodes, whether the node is having enough backup with it. If the node doesn't have enough backup with it, the node becomes something which is discarded in the entire network. And if the node is entirely discarded in one of the network, I'm unable to get a data. So in the machine learning part of it, I determine that what is most likely as a backup available with the energy at that particular sensor. All the IoT sensor, they are backed locally. Are you getting me, sir?
Yes, sir.
At the IoT, all the sensors, all those which I say the infrastructural part of those devices, they get backed up at locally. So the available power with all those sensors locally made available to them is very, very, very small, sir. And they're not supposed to get it taken up for recharging with some wire or with some human intervention into it. It might be powered by solar backup or something like that. But ultimately, and this is going to work upon all 24 by 7. And for all 24 by 7, the backup provided might not be sufficient. How do we see that the backup lasts for a long? The backup to last for a long should indicate that the processing at that node should be minimum. If more is the processing, more is what I say the exhaustion of the backup. Am I correct? So let's see the backup available. So less is the processing, more the backup available. Am I correct, sir? So
Yes, sir.
based on the availability of the backup, the processing at that particular node is decided, and this also is a machine learning. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Next. Any one of you working in this area to carry out research in the particular domain to satisfy giving a solution for your real life problem? Machine learning is very fascinating field, very, very fascinating field. And as I stated that it doesn't really for you to get a deep dive into how it works. This is totally totally one side whereupon you wanted to understand how machine works, and then you start making use of it. In the second part of it, you know that machine works like this, straightway make use of this for carrying out solution for your problem. So either you look forward for designing the machine with a more of a machine learning ability, or you make use of the learned machine to carry out solution for the real life problem. So these are the two aspects. You might be having your interest either for developing the machine learning, or you would be more interested in making use of the learned machine for solving your problems. Are you with me, sir? So how many of you are working in this domain, in that direction? Can I get a feedback?
Yes, sir. We have started, but somehow in together IoT and machine learning data is not available, not getting properly on somewhere. So I'm requesting you if you are having some sources like last reference page, we have taken screenshot, but the actual data like papers we are not finding. Recently, we have started working on that, like machine learning and IoT together.
Sir, I liked your comment.
Okay.
You are searching for something and you are not getting it. Your great grief. Am I correct now? Huh?
Yes, sir.
So, and you wanted to come out of it. So, my
Yes.
simple solution. So, we would like to tackle this problem in a backward way. In the sense, backward in the sense that in a reverse ordering, what is that you wanted to do? So, from that point of view, you come a step down. From that step, you come one more step down. From that step, you come to two more step downs. What did he say? That suppose if your problem is of classifying something, or classifying something, what is that you are classifying? Whether such a data is available to you, or you want to make use of real life data for its classification. Anything which is real life data for classification cannot be used directly because you have not learned from the data. A real life data coming to you must be first learned. Am I correct? No? If you have not learned on the data, you cannot make any predictions into it. So you need to have basically a huge data with you for learning. Without huge data, you cannot go for a learning, which we won't say there's a, whether it's a stable learning or not a stable learning. For a stable learning, you need to have huge data. And the second important part is that whichever platform that you select for learning, it must be converging in nature. I'm using the word that the learning must be converging in the sense that what you learned yesterday and what you are learning today, it must converge on your day before yesterday learning. What you learn today is diverging from what you learned day before yesterday. Possibly it creates a chaos to you. It should not be a chaotic situation. So what you are learning yesterday, what you were learning yesterday, what you are learning today, they must converge and they must improve you on your understanding. Understanding improvement is more important. That is a part of a learning. If you learn, possibly your learnings could be then imparted to the machine. And how they are getting imparted, as I stated, that you construct only the rules. What are those rules? If A, then B rules. Mostly, having constructed a tree, having constructed those regression, having constructed many of those algorithms, you come up with at the end a certain knowledge rule. Knowledge rule. And that knowledge will help you to get it used appropriately for programming. Okay, so the knowledge rule used for a programming and then embedded into the machine become the embedded intelligence. Am I correct, sir? So
Yes.
my submission to you is like this. Please look at what is your problem. For a problem, what data you need. That data needs to be enormous into it. Given such a data, how you process it. Given such a processing to you in its classification or in regression, you have with you many tools. You may start looking for any one of the tools to start with. If the result for selecting any other tool is not found appropriate, you may discard it, you go for a second. Slowly, you get enrichment in selecting of the tools also. Okay, and at one point of time, you become so expert that you understand that this particular tool is good enough for this kind of the application. You become expert like that only, sir. It needs some kind of experiences. There are certain machine learning algorithms available today, wherever they also bring expertise to the machine. It means that you do not know how to do. Machine will help you how to do it. So that kind of a learning is also available, which is now called as a learning on fly. Are you getting me, sir? Machines
Thank you
are
very much.
today learning on fly, learning on fly.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
that
sir.
is currently also available. But you
Thank you.
need to have your experiences. Okay, good part,
Yes.
very good part.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving me a smile on this explanation. Very much. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative session, sir. It was really wonderful. Now we will meet at 3 p.m. for the next session. We'll take break of 15 minutes. Is it okay, sir? Kulkarni, sir? Hello? Hello? Participants, we will meet at 3 p.m.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.